Have you ever stared directly at something and somehow failed to see it? Not because your eyesight was poor, not because the object was hidden, but because for a brief moment, your brain decided it wasn't important. It sounds impossible. After all, if your eyes are looking straight at something, surely you should see it. Yet psychologists have spent decades demonstrating the opposite. People can miss a person walking through the middle of a scene. They can overlook objects sitting directly in front of them. They can even fail to notice an entire conversation changing around them. Not because they're distracted in the ordinary sense, but because perception isn't simply about what's in front of your eyes. It's about what your brain expects to find. In the last episode, we explored how the brain constantly predicts reality before conscious experience begins. But prediction has a surprising consequence.
Sometimes, what your brain expects becomes more powerful than what's actually there. And that's where perception reveals one of its strangest secrets. Imagine walking through a familiar street on your way home. Cars pass by, people cross the road, someone waves from across the sidewalk. Your eyes collect an incredible amount of information every second, yet your conscious experience contains only a tiny fraction of it. The rest is quietly filtered away. This isn't a flaw. It's one of the brain's greatest survival strategies. Attention is limited. If every sound, every face, every movement, and every detail demanded equal awareness, even the simplest decisions would become overwhelming. So the brain makes a choice. Without asking your permission, it decides what deserves your attention and what can safely remain outside conscious awareness. Most of the time, that invisible filter works so well that we never notice it exists, until one remarkable experiment revealed just how much of reality can disappear, even while we're looking directly at it. In 1999, psychologists Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris designed an experiment that has since become one of the most famous studies in cognitive psychology. The task seemed almost ridiculously simple. Participants watched a short video of two teams passing basketballs to one another. One team wore white shirts, the other wore black. The instruction was straightforward. Count how many passes the players wearing white make. Most people focused carefully. They counted every pass, trying not to lose track. Then something extraordinary happened. Halfway through the video, a person wearing a full gorilla costume casually walked into the middle of the scene. The gorilla stopped, turned toward the camera, beat its chest, then slowly walked away. The entire appearance lasted nearly 9 seconds. Yet when the video ended, many participants confidently reported the correct number of passes while completely failing to notice the gorilla. Not because it was hidden, not because it appeared too quickly, but because in that moment their attention had been committed somewhere else. The eyes had seen it, the brain had not. At first, this seems impossible. How can something so large simply vanish from awareness? The answer is surprisingly simple. Your brain was never trying to see everything. It was trying to solve one specific problem. How many passes did the players in white make? The moment that goal was established, your attention became selective. The players, the ball, their movements, those details suddenly became important. Everything else became background. This phenomenon is known as inattentional blindness. When your attention is fully engaged with one task, surprisingly obvious information can pass through your eyes without ever reaching conscious awareness. Notice what this means. The gorilla didn't disappear from the world. It disappeared from your experience of the world. Your brain wasn't failing. It was doing exactly what it was designed to do, filtering reality so you could focus on what mattered most. In other words, seeing has never been about collecting every detail. It's about selecting the details that matter. Of course, most of us don't spend our days counting basketball passes, but inattentional blindness isn't confined to psychology labs. It quietly shapes everyday life. Have you ever searched frantically for your phone, only to realize it was in your hand all along? Or looked through an entire shelf for a familiar item, only for someone else to point directly to it? Perhaps you've driven a familiar route home and barely remembered the journey afterward. These moments can feel strange, even embarrassing, but they reveal something profound. Your brain isn't creating a complete moment-by-moment recording of reality. Instead, it's constantly deciding what deserves your awareness and what can remain in the background. What you notice depends not only on what's around you, but on what you're trying to achieve. Your goals, your expectations, and your attention quietly shape the world you experience. The reality you live in isn't simply the world outside you. It's the small, carefully selected portion your brain allows you to notice. If missing a gorilla suit sounds surprising, what if the world changed right in front of your eyes and you never noticed? Psychologists call this phenomenon change blindness. In one well-known experiment, a stranger stopped pedestrians to ask for directions. As they spoke, two workers carrying a large door walked between them, briefly blocking their view. During that moment, the person asking for directions was secretly replaced by someone else. Different face, different voice, sometimes even different clothes. Yet many pedestrians continued the conversation without realizing they were speaking to an entirely different person. How could such an obvious change go unnoticed? Because the brain doesn't compare every detail of one moment with the next. Instead, it builds a coherent story from the information it considers most relevant. As long as that story remains consistent, the mind often assumes the world hasn't changed. We like to think we're constantly observing reality, but more often than not, we're observing the brain's best interpretation of it. Perhaps the most remarkable discovery isn't that the brain sometimes misses things, it's that it has to. A mind that noticed everything would struggle to understand anything. So the brain does what it has always done. It filters, it predicts, it selects. And from an overwhelming flood of information, it constructs the reality you consciously experience. Most of the time, that construction serves us remarkably well. It allows us to navigate a world far too complex to process in its entirety. But every now and then, a hidden gorilla, a changing face, or an unexpected illusion reminds us that our experience of reality is never the whole picture. The world we perceive is not a perfect copy of what's out there. It's the brain's best attempt to make sense of it. And perhaps that's the deeper lesson. The limits of perception aren't simply weaknesses to overcome. They are clues to how the mind truly works. The more we understand those hidden processes, the more clearly we begin to understand ourselves. And that awareness may be one of the closest things we have to seeing the world as it really is. Perhaps the greatest journey isn't through the world, but through the mind that experiences it. Until next time, this is the Awareness Abode.